We interrupt your programming to bring you this live breaking news update. Years of waiting and weeks of court come down to this as the jury prepares to deliver a verdict in the trial of Lori Vallow Daybell, the Idaho mom, facing multiple charges of murder, conspiracy to commit murder, and grand theft in connection to the deaths of her two children, J.J. Vallow and Tylee Ryan, and her ex-husband's ex-wife, Tammy Daybell. Let's go to the live feed at the Ada County Courthouse.
Are read in the verdict, and I expect to maintain order and decorum as has been the case throughout this trial with those in attendance, so please keep that in mind once we get to this stage of these proceedings. So with that in mind, if the jurors are ready, they can be seated.
All rise, please. Jury's all present, got for Your Honor.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bailiff. Please be seated. All right, the court will note that we had alternate jurors that were excused upon deliberations, so now the remaining 12 jurors who have deliberated are here and appear to all be properly seated. Will counsel stipulate that the jury is all present and properly seated from the state?
Yes, Your Honor.
Will the defense will stipulate?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, at this time, the court will inquire then from the jury. Has the jury reached a verdict?
Yeah.
Very well. If you have the verdict form, I'd ask the bailiff bring that over here and we'll have it brought to the clerk to be read. All right, the court has reviewed the verdict form, find that it's been properly completed, signed and dated, so at this time I'll direct the clerk to please read the verdict into the record. The defendant would please rise.
In the District Court of the 7th Judicial District of the State of Idaho, in and for the County of Fremont, State of Idaho plaintiff versus Lori Noreen Vallow, aka Lori Noreen Daybell, defendant, case number CR 22211624. Verdict. We, the jury, duly impaneled and sworn to try the above entitled action for our verdict, unanimously answer the questions submitted to us as follows. Question number 1. In regards to count 1 of the amended indictment, is Lori Noreen Vallow not guilty or guilty of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder of Tylee Ryan and grand theft by deception? Answer, guilty. Question number 2. In regards to count 2 of the amended indictment, is Lori Noreen Vallow not guilty or guilty of first-degree murder of Tylee Ryan? Answer, guilty. Question number 3, in regards to count 3 of the amended indictment, is Lori Noreen Vallow not guilty or guilty of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder of Joshua Jackson Vallow and grand theft by deception? Answer, guilty. Question number 4, in regards to count 4, the amended indictment, is Lori Noreen Vallow not guilty or guilty of first-degree murder of Joshua Jackson Vallow? Answer, guilty. Question number 5. In regards to count 5 of the amended indictment, is Lori Noreen Vallow not guilty or guilty of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder of Tammy Daybell? Answer, guilty. Question number 6, in regards to count 7 of the amended indictment, is Lori Noreen Vallow not guilty or guilty of grand theft? Answer, guilty. Dated this 12th day of May, 2023, signed by the presiding officer.
All right, please be seated. Madam Clerk, thank you for reading the verdict into the record. At this time, let me just inquire of the jury, is this in fact your true and correct verdict?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you. Let me ask now from counsel, does the state wish to have the jury polled?
We do not, Your Honor.
Does the defense wish to have the jury polled?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, the jury will be polled at this time. Madam Clerk, if you would please indicate only by juror numbers of each of the jurors if this is their true and correct verdict individually.
Juror number 4, is this your true and correct verdict?
Yes, it is.
Juror number 5, is this your true and correct verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 6, is this your true and correct verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 8, is this your true and correct verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 9, is this your true and correct verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 10, is this your true and correct verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 11, is this your true and correct verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 12, is this your true and correct verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 13, is this your true and correct verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 14, is this your true and correct verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 15, is this your true and correct verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 16, is this your true and correct verdict?
Yes.
All right, thank you, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. The court does find it's a unanimous verdict in this case, so I will direct the clerk to record the verdict into the record of this case. I'll now have a closing jury instruction for our jurors and also those alternate jurors that are in attendance today. You have now completed your duties as jurors in this case and are discharged with the sincere.
There you have it. Let's bring in anchor Roland Barris on the ground at the Ada County Courthouse. Roland, what's the reaction and atmosphere where you're at?
Yeah, Don, clearly it was mostly media down here for the bulk of the morning, but just about the time that we understood that the verdict was going to be read, a bunch of people showed up. We've got about 30, 40 people here, and they all started to scream and yell and applaud, essentially, when the guilty verdicts came down. A group of about 30 or 40 people out there outside of the media who showed up here in the afternoon. That's one of the things about downtown Boise. A lot of people just walking around. A lot of people were anticipating this and came down here to see what it was going to be like. Well, we had people down here at 4 o'clock in the morning to get actually into the court and be there for the verdict. So you can see, I think, Don, and I'll ask you the same thing. I mean, everyone that we talk to, whether it's fair or not, seemed to think that this was going to go the way it did leading up to this. You talk to anyone, people on the street, that everyone was talking about it. And yes, well, what do you think is going to happen? Pretty much across the board. I don't remember ever running into anyone who said, well, I think this is going to go Lori's way. Do you?
No, and I think that due process was done accordingly at the Ada County Courthouse in downtown Boise. I think a lot of people were really focused in on that conspiracy charge, Roland, because of the fact that Lori was not at the murder locations where the crimes were committed. Though her DNA was found on the duct tape on Chad Daybell's property, some people had speculated, well, that could have come from JJ's PJs, or it could have came from Alex Cox. So I think a lot of people were focused on those conspiracy charges. As far as the grand theft charges go, yes, with the insurance policies, she was so upset that Kay, the grandmother of JJ, and the brother of Charles Vallow received those benefits. I think Lori, her words were, she called Kay a jerk. So I think those were the two charges that a lot of people were saying, that's what's going to happen. As far as the direct murder charge, I don't want to say I was surprised, but I was focused in on that conspiracy murder charge.
Yeah, I think that it really is a testament to the job that the prosecution did, and they laid it out piece by piece, and it was so extensive, 60 witnesses and just untold numbers of texts that they were able to gather and narrow it down. That's the key, to narrow it down to those elements that really pointed the jury in the right direction in all of those cases. And they did a tremendous job. Now, you can talk about the defense and what kind of defense was put on here. Not much, obviously. During cross-examination, there were some, objections, but not a lot. And then in the defense, it just didn't seem to hold water across the board. It was perhaps entertaining for some people. It was weird, Don. When I saw the defense yesterday putting on the defensive argument in the spill-out room for the media, it was 120 people in there, and people were laughing out loud, guffawing during the defense's final remarks and final argument. I mean, that's bizarre. I haven't seen a lot of these cases, but that was sort of bizarre. He went after Chad, and it's an interesting, question now, because what does this all mean for Chad Daybell, who's going to probably be going to trial in the next year or so, probably next summer? It makes you wonder. All this evidence is out there now. I talked to David Leroy about that, and he said, well, actually, that is an advantage for the defendant, to know everything that's out there, to see a lot of the stuff that, could be coming their way. And we'll be expecting this whole circus again, next year. Or earlier. We haven't decided exactly when, Chad Daybell is going to be going to trial, but it's expected to be next year. So, here we go again with that.
To your point about the defense, and there was a mic drop moment when they talked about the crime scene on Chad Daybell's property, the hair found on the tape. We all thought that the defense would come back and say, now, wait a minute, just because Lori's a strand of hair was found there on the tape, this was the duct tape that they wrapped J.J. Vallow in and then put him in that shallow grave. They did not come back, and I remember we spoke specifically with Chanley Painter from Court TV. She was shocked.
Yeah.
All her experience in covering all these different cases. She's like, why didn't they come back and say, well, that doesn't really mean much in this case. Now, I want to go back, Roland. I think it's interesting that this has lasted now 3.5, going on more than 3.5 years. This all started before COVID, if you could imagine that, right? And because of Larry and Kay Woodcock, a lot of people, I know you've had these discussions with people, had it not been for those two pushing people, where is JJ? Where is JJ? Who knows where we would be today? So, if they've been there every day, and their sincerity to talking to the media. So hats off to Larry and Kay, who live, by the way, in Lake Charles, Louisiana. So they have been here from start to finish, but their home is down in Louisiana. Had they not been asking those questions, then the investigators, as you know, you've talked about it, they got involved, and they were like, where is JJ? And Lori says, well, JJ is with my friend Melanie Gibb down in Arizona. They contact Melanie Gibb and say, do you have JJ? And Melanie, good friend of Lori Vallow, says, he's not here. That's when the problem started. And then, of course, Ty Lee
I think
came involved.
You're absolutely right, Don. A lot of times people are reluctant to speak to the media about any sorts of cases. But in this case, you're absolutely right. Larry Woodcock, he kept it in the public eye. He kept talking about it and kept moving it forward. And in a trial that was so bizarre. I mean, this was really, in so many ways, so bizarre. Larry was a breath of fresh air every day coming here, and it's sort of hard for me to really imagine how he was able to do it, to be positive every day. He would come in and he would welcome everybody in the media who wanted to talk to him, was right on him as soon as he arrived. And how's everyone doing? It's going to be a great day. I'm very positive. And after all of this horrible case, just the horrific details of this case, for a gentleman like that to continue to be positive and to move this case forward. And he's moving forward, by the way, looking forward to Chad Daybell's trial as well. But so he's not stopping. He really did an amazing job. And it was kind of nice in all the darkness of this trial to see him every day, wasn't it?
Yes, absolutely. A pleasure to speak to both of them, but specifically Larry, because just a fine gentleman. Got to know a little bit about him, that he was a farmer. He worked on the oil rigs down in the Gulf. He had some interesting stories going through a few hurricanes. But, you know, I want to go back to the trial. You know, when we talked with David Leroy, and you spoke with him at length about, you know, we said, how long do you think this is going to last? And David Leroy thought the over and under would be 4 weeks. We're at 5 weeks, 6 if you include the jury selection. Now, keep in mind, there, as you mentioned, Roland, there is another trial, Chad Daybell, where the state was asked last week, how long do you think it'll take to put on your case against Chad Daybell? They said, you know, give or take a couple of days, 8 weeks. But John Pryor, the defense attorney for Chad Daybell, he thinks he needs up to 12 weeks. So imagine what we all went through, everybody in this community, for the last 6 weeks. That could be doubled next year, Roland.
No, absolutely. There's, you know, it's a possibility, but this case proves that anything's possible, Don. I mean, we all thought, you know, the possibility could be 10 weeks. You know, it ended in half of that. And, you know, when some people who've been around the business for a long time said, with all this evidence, it's going to take them a while to go through that before they come up with a verdict. It could be next week. It wasn't. It was quick. It was, you know, less than 2 days, frankly. I mean, a little bit yesterday and a little bit today, and bam, we've got a verdict, and everybody's on board. You know, there's a question, would there be one, you know, charge maybe where there's an outlier, someone who says that, you know, they just didn't agree? It didn't happen. It was unanimous. And so, you know, anything can happen in these trials. And, you know, next time we may be surprised in a different way. But I think a lot of people are, you know, pleased that it went as quickly as it did, you know, right to a speedy trial. That's what they say, right? And here we go. We got it.
Yeah. And we were all surprised that the defense really didn't call anybody. We thought, you know, we knew that the prosecution, as you mentioned, had a stack of evidence. And over 60 witnesses, every investigator, you know, and people who knew him, the neighbors up in Rexburg, the people down in Mesa and Chandler, Arizona, right outside of Phoenix, were called in. Hawaii, the detectives, you know, when they served the warrant to Lori in Hawaii, they flew in. So we knew that the prosecution was going to take some time. So people started speculating, you know, especially us in the media, when we talked together, we're like, you know, does Lori, do they have any character witnesses that they could possibly call? She has a niece, Melanie, who seems to be her ally. Not so. At least she wasn't called. So I think, again, the trial was cut, I don't want to say in half, but maybe a third, I don't know, by not calling any witnesses. Your thoughts?
Right. And well, I'm curious, you know, you mentioned earlier the hair that was found on the duct tape around J.J. Vallow that belonged to Lori, had DNA connections to Lori. That was addressed in closings. And, you know, it was addressed the way we thought it would be, where Archibald got up and said, hey, look, you know, this means absolutely nothing. It's his mom. Of course, you know, the hair would be there. So it was addressed. There's no question. But why it wasn't addressed, you know, in court, letting, you know, the jury ruminate on it, you know, until closing argument, that's a weird question. That's a strange question that only, you know, the attorney knows the answer to. But it was addressed in closings. You know, then of course you've got, you know, the closing report that was the argument that was almost kind of flippant in some ways from Archibald. That just at times you had people actually laughing in the overflow room by the things that were said. I wonder how that played with the jury, and it'll be interesting to talk to the jurors about that because, again, like you say, he left it until the very end to make his argument. And that was it. And, you know, even if he made his point, maybe, you know, some of that stuff stuck from earlier in the trial and, you know, it had an impact on the jurors. It'll be interesting to ask them down the road, if we can get a hold of any of the jurors, what they thought of all of that.
Right. And that's a good point. To contact the jury members, they can talk now that this case is over. How many will talk? What did they think about the defense's roadmap or lack of a roadmap, and how the prosecution came out that first week, Roland? And it was that first punch when they showed those photographs That is something
Yeah.
that will stick with me. I know everybody else who saw those pictures of JJ, of course, Tylee, we know the gruesome death, what she had to go through. But with those photographs that they showed of JJ right out of the gate,
Yeah.
and I know they brought them back, that is something that I will never forget. And anybody who saw those gruesome photographs of what happened to that little boy and young girl, that it's just,
Yeah.
you know, there you go.
And that was right off the bat with the prosecution's closing argument, too. It was very early on that those pictures were shown again, Don, because they're so impactful, so difficult. And then, of course, you remember the keywords there, you know, power, sex, and money.
Yeah.
You know, they hung their hat on that, you know, the prosecution did. And, you know, you can debate whether or not it was effective. It seems like it certainly was, you know, to narrow it down to three things. And to me, it came down to, you know, who was in charge here? You know, when was Lori the one that was kind of the ringleader? Was Chad the ringleader? And then some of the texts, which you know, are not as scintillating as a lot of the other stuff in this bizarre trial, but some of the texts really indicated that Lori was the one sort of addressing people and saying, "You'll be doing this. You're going to do this. I want this information." And I think that played for the jury.
Right, and let's remember the focus, as it should be, on those two children. But there's
Yes.
another person here, Tammy Daybell, that of course is no longer with us. Roland, set up the piece. You did a story yesterday. We want to show that. Can you set it up for us?
Yeah, you know, I mean, just every day, you know, we've been covering what's been going on with it being the closing arguments. Leading up to it, it was really fascinating to see Larry come out, as he always did, and he was playing a song that was JJ's favorite song from Queen, and you know, it meant a lot to him. Take a look. The grandfather of murdered child J.J. Vallow walks up to the media playing the Queen song, "We Will Rock You," to start the day. For legal reasons, we can't play it for you, but it obviously meant a lot to Larry Woodcock.
Guys, today is the day. That song was JJ's song. He played it, he sang it, he loved it. And I can't think of a better day to play that song in memory of JJ. And I am ready for this.
The closing arguments in this case that has captured the nation's attention brought a large crowd of watchers to the Ada County Courthouse.
It's just because it's so bizarre. Every day I'm like blown away by the things I hear and what I think they believe, and I'm just trying to wrap my head around it like everybody else, I guess. Like, how does this happen? Where did this come from?
After an hour of jury instructions, prosecutor Rob Wood started his closing arguments with the theme the case started with: sex, power, and money. Wood showed the brutal murder scene pictures of JJ and Tylee buried in Chad's backyard early in the argument. He also used Chad's reference to death numbers and how Lori responds positively when her own child's death number is close to 100%. Wood says Lori encouraged the use of their strange religion to allow the killings of her own kids. He closes with a reminder to the jury to ask who benefited from the deaths of the children and Tammy. Lori took in many thousands of dollars in federal benefits designated for her kids, even if they were dead. He says the common thread is Lori, and tells the jury the evidence proves it beyond a reasonable doubt that they must convict. Defense attorney Jim Archibald tried to place the blame on Chad Daybell and make him out to be the ringleader who perpetrated the crimes and used Lori. He addressed the sex, power, and money argument, saying Lori would have been richer to stay with Charles, her fourth husband, who made a salary close to $500,000 a year. He says Lori got no power from Chad's strange religious group because they had so few followers. And he says Lori was only sweet-talked into a romantic relationship for sex by a bizarre dullard. In the end, Archibald told the jury that until Lori met Chad, she spent her life protecting her kids. Now, Don, one of those arguments there that I had kind of forgotten about was the money issue with Charles Vallow, and that he made so much money, and then that you'd be surprised, why would, Lori leave him? Well, it's the answer to that is obvious to everybody. Well, she was in love with someone else. Money doesn't mean much, although clearly if you could have love and also have the money, then perhaps all the better, and that's what this whole case was all about. Right. Money always using other people to get that cash. I want to point out what we have behind here just real quickly, Don,
Sure.
that you can see all the media is set up here, and we're hoping to have some folks coming out from trial to speak here. Maybe the attorneys, maybe Larry will be here, maybe Kay. So far, no one has come out, but we're hoping for that. As the afternoon goes along here, and of course we would bring that to you as soon as that happens. But you can see more people are starting to come down here as the verdict and word of the verdict is spreading throughout town, and people just coming out on a very sunny and now pretty warm day to be a part of this.
Yeah, you mentioned the reasons the prosecution comes out. What is the motive here? The power, the money, the sex, but now that it's over, Roland, we're still, just as a normal human being, you still want to know why. Why did you do this? And I think, the henchman, the hitman, Alex Cox, her brother, who was so close to Lori from start to finish. Of course, he's not with us to answer some very, very tough questions. So you try to wonder, how did this all start? You would think this would have started before she met Chad. Maybe not.
Right.
Maybe when she went to that seminar in St. George, Utah, and heard Chad and meet Chad about his thoughts on the end of life, the second coming, his books. We have to get ready. Maybe that's where, maybe it really did start there in St. George. But if you look at her history, she's on. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I think you're exactly right, Don. I think that was probably the best point that the defense probably could have made and should have maybe made it better, was the fact that, look at the history of Lori. Up until this point, there was nobody that they interviewed who thought she had this in her. Right? There was nobody who thought that she could do this before she met Chad. She was pretty, everything was normal. And they made that point a few times throughout the trial, but maybe didn't hammer it home enough that, they tried to put it on Chad as opposed to Lori. But I thought that was the best argument that I heard, was that, look, and you never heard Lori talking, of these weird zombies and dark people before she met Chad, and all this stuff really did happen just after she met Chad. Could you make the argument that he was the ringleader there? That was the argument that they tried to make. They certainly did, but the jury didn't buy it. The jury didn't buy it.
Roland, what about your piece you worked on today?
Yeah, so we were, getting sort of things in advance, getting ready for this. Now that the verdict is here, we didn't know if there's going to be a verdict leading up to it, but we had a chance to talk to some people before this got started, and as I mentioned, people were up at 4 o'clock in the morning to come down and be a part of this. It's certainly a spectacle, Don. Take a look. Like a blockbuster summer movie in the old days, people were lined up before the break of dawn to see the spectacle of a verdict in the Lori Vallow Daybell case.
Today would be a great day to have a verdict because it's Mother's Day weekend, and it would be fitting, and I think the families deserve that, and so it just feels right to be here.
The prospect of a long deliberation didn't deter these people who were just spectators.
It's my birthday today. We're going to get justice.
For those who were an intimate part of this 5-week trial, it was more personal.
We just get more and more angry. It's just so senseless, and so we're all hurt. We're all looking for healing, I think, including y'all, your listeners, your watchers.
This has been 3.5 years of effort at this point, and there's so many people who gave their all and really put forth a tremendous effort to present this case to the jury.
The 5 weeks of trial testimony was the culmination of 3 years of buildup and investigation, 3 years of media coverage, 3 years of heartache.
Because I'm a mom and I'm a grandma and I just have a heart for kids and I just want to see justice served for them.
As you can see, Larry and Kay Woodcock outside, and he's leading the crowd out gathered outside the Ada County Courthouse. "We Will Rock You" by Queen, which was JJ's apparently his favorite song. So we assume that they're going to walk up to the podium here. There's a number of microphones, as Roland pointed out, the media. Let's see if they come up here and start talking and answering questions. But, well, he's had, by the way, that jacket, his jean jacket, with him the whole time. So I see he's speaking with a couple of other members of the media. They're going to grab him before he comes up to the podium. Yeah, if we can get him up to the microphone, yeah. There we go. We have our microphone there, so.
Thank y'all, thank y'all, thank y'all. Thank y'all. For one time in my life, I'm kind of lost at words, believe that or not. Look, first of all, I want to thank 18 jurors.
Yeah.
I cannot thank them enough. I'm sure everybody has paid attention in court.
Speak it, get over here closer.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sure everyone has paid attention in court. I want to personally hug every one of those jurors. What they went through, what they saw, is mind-boggling. I hope that nobody ever has to go through this. I hope nobody ever has to see and hear the details of what happened to JJ, to Tylee, and to Tammy. Guys, we got 2 more trials. 2 more.
3. Charles, Chad, and Brandon.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
I mean,
well,
Charles
okay.
is in Arizona.
Yeah.
Brandon's in Arizona. And
The next trial is Chad. I look forward to being back in this courthouse again. If that happens, I hope everybody is here again. I hope that y'all appreciate so much the court system, how meticulous the prosecution was. I think everybody will agree it was amazing job by all of them. And I want y'all to know that even the defense, I shook their hands. I have said many times, I want a fair, honest, and righteous decision. I think we had 18 jurors that all deserve our appreciation, our love, and they gave an honest, fair, and righteous verdict.
You guys really embraced each other in there at the reading of the verdict. What did you say to each other in that moment?
I love you. What else can you say?
Larry, what was it like walking out, seeing all the law enforcement officers in the hallway?
It was.
Do what?
What was it like walking out, seeing all of the law enforcement officers who have spent countless hours?
Oh, I know. We would be nowhere without them.
You know, as much as I have said up here about the prosecution, the defense, the jurors.
Look, over here too. There's people over here too.
Nate, you made an absolute great statement. We have to appreciate, support our law enforcement officials. Those guys sacrificed from their families, from their homes. We will never know the countless hours.
Get the speaker, babe.
the countless hours that they have put in, how much sacrifice they have gone through, and most of all, what they have seen in this case that maybe some people will never unsee. I love them. I appreciate them. There's not one of these guys I wouldn't go in a dark alley with. I cannot thank them enough. Next question.
Larry, what is your final message to Lori Vallow?
My final message to Lori. Y'all ready? Turn out the lights. The party's over. They say that all good things must end. Lori, it ended.
Hey, what about you? How are you feeling today? Can you tell us what
Yeah,
it was like?
can I have a minute?
Yeah.
We are elated with this. There was some doubt we would get all of them, all guilties, but we did it. The prosecution is amazing. The law enforcement is amazing. They became our family, and we're keeping most of them for the rest of our life as family. And even you news people, we've made great friends with you guys, and journalists. Oh, news journalists. Anyway, it's great. Our JJ now, maybe we can get him and put him to rest, as well as Tylee, and do right by them, and we'll see how that works. But anyway, we're so grateful, and we thank all of y'all for your support, and we would never be here without y'all. And so many people have reached out to us, and I mean, I have to tell y'all, we even got a message from someone in Tasmania that is following this case. So it's all over the world, and we appreciate all of you, and thank you, and God bless America, because we're grateful we live here. Thank you. Anybody?
Love always wins.
Yeah.
Hey.
Love always wins. There you go.
Love always wins. How many times we heard that? I do have one other statement I'd like to make, believe it or not. I do. I forgot one of the most important things.
Thank you.
Ray, what would I do without you? I have one more statement. JJ, I love you. Papa, wish you were here in other circumstances. Tylee, Papa loves you. Tammy, I never met you. Tammy, you are part of our life. Tammy, I am sorry for what happened to you. My heart hurts. My heart hurts for these three. This is what this has been all about from the very get-go. It started with 2 children missing. And I stood up and I said, where are the children? Where are the children? Where are the children? Give us back our children. We're not ending this. This is not the end of this. 90 days from today, we will probably meet in Fremont County. The sentence will be handed down. And I'm going to say right now what I'm going to say in 3 months. Why, Lori? Why, Lori? Why?
Power, sex, and greed.
Power, sex, and greed. For what? For what? Power, sex, and greed. That's all it was. And JJ, Papa misses you. I miss you. So,
Hey, let's let Jerry say something.
thank y'all.
Can you just talk
Okay,
about the
yeah.
merits of a vote?
Get somebody in that's pretty.
Look, here, real quick.
They got the bitch. Hell yeah.
My brother Jerry.
Well, there you have it. A very happy couple there, Larry and Kay Woodcock. And we are going to wrap things up with Roland Barris, who's been down there all week. Final thoughts, Roland, before we finish up. I've got a statement from the prosecutors that I'd like to read, but your final thoughts.
Yeah, I guess at the end here, it's the kind of the role that music played, you know. JJ's favorite song yesterday, "We Will Rock You." Certainly the jury rocked Lori's world today. And then Larry singing a song I remember from Monday Night Football with Don Meredith always singing, and when the game was over, turn out the lights, the party's over, old classic standard. And yeah, the party's over. And he wanted to make that point to Lori directly. So comes to the end of a bizarre trial, but then again, we have Chad Daybells to look forward to part 2. Not so far off the road. Don?
All right, thanks, Roland. Great job. And also want to give a shout out to our partners at Court TV and East Idaho News. We couldn't have done it without them. And we'll continue to work with them. Now, a statement from the Madison County and Fremont County prosecutors. Going to have to put on the glasses for this one. We are very pleased with the jury's verdict, and we want to thank them as well as the alternates for their service over the last 6 weeks during this trial. Given the pending case against the co-defendant, we are unable to conduct any additional interviews or discuss further details of this matter. We want to assure each of you that we remain committed to pursuing justice for Tylee Ryan, JJ Vallow, and Tammy Daybell. We also want to express sincere appreciation to the many members of law enforcement and the community who tirelessly worked together to hold Lori Vallow Daybell accountable, guilty on all charges. That's Rob Wood, Madison County Prosecuting Attorney, and Lindsay Blake, Fremont County Prosecuting Attorney. Well, more to come tonight at the courthouse. Our crews will be there this evening. We will also get that expert analysis that I mentioned from the other folks helping us out to continue bringing you the very latest on the verdict, as well as reaction, expert analysis from our partners, as I mentioned, at East Idaho News, Scripps News, and Court TV. Join us at 5, 6, and 10 right here on Idaho News 6, or scan that code on your screen for all of our coverage and the very latest at any hour on idahonews6.com.